Welcome back, everybody, to Buried Chapter 3. We follow Marcus into what I can only describe as a control room of sorts. There are countless computer screens, some of which are obviously coming back on from having been shut off. Everything looks extremely complicated, from screens filled with code and data to what is obviously a security system. It reminds me of a miniaturized version of the Operations Center in just about every space travel movie I've ever seen. Marcus is running from one screen to another, apparently looking for some pertinent bit of information. "Where's the first aid kit?" I snap at him. Marcus stops in his tracks as if he'd forgotten the whole reason for bringing us down here. "Oh yeah," he says, rushing to the left side of the room. There he hunkers down by an open panel in the wall, what I assume is the emergency vault from where he got the rifle. Let's look at the open vault. I peer over Marcus's shoulder into the vault he's opened. It's much larger than it looks from the outside. It's partially filled with file folders marked classified, a few rounds of ammo for the rifle, a peculiar plastic kit filled with syringes, and a locked black box. As Marcus digs around, one of the folders slides open. For the split second it's open, I see a scanned document and a color photo. The photo shows a male corpse with its guts on the outside of its body, as if it had been turned inside out. There's also massive swelling on his head, almost like his skull is about to explode. Marcus slaps the folder closed, and then I turn my attention to one of the syringes. It's filled with a violet-colored fluid that, while rather pretty in color, looks deadly. Marcus finally pulls out the first aid kit and turns around. When I look back to motion Dennis over, he's paler than ever. "Come on," I tell him, but he's not moving from the place on the floor where he sits against the wall. I slide the first aid kit over to him and go scrambling to his side. Between the struggle for the rifle upstairs and arriving in this room, he's faded fast. I struggle to lift his shirt up and then over his shoulders as the dried blood holds it in place. The mere act causes him to grimace. "This might hurt a little," I tell Dennis. He only nods. He doesn't seem to care. Oh, do I pull the shirt off gently or do I rip it off? If it's all plastered with blood, then we better pull it off gently, otherwise we might cause it to bleed more than it might have. I lift the shirt off gently, and it makes a sucking sound. There's so much blood that the moisture tries to keep the shirt pulled in. Dennis lets out a little moan, but seems to relax, in spite of his injuries. With the shirt fully removed, the extent of his injuries becomes more clear. His wound is more visible now, although it's partially hidden by the blood that has started to clot around it. My medical knowledge is slim. Basically, just a bunch of basics I learned in Boy Scouts. I look over to Marcus, hopefully, and ask, "You have any training?" "Zero," he says. "Sorry." It's just as well, I guess. He's far too concerned with what's happening on the monitors to be of much help anyway. I start by taking out the several rolls of gauze within the kit, wipe as much blood as I can away from the wound on his side. It's even worse than I had figured from the start. The gash is deep and dark. I'm pretty sure it's infected too. He's gonna need stitches, that's for sure. But I have no idea how to even start that. Besides, I don't see the tools for it in the kit. When I splash rubbing alcohol over the wound, he responds with a hoarse yelp of surprise, but nothing more. Ooh, ouch, can't imagine. His eyes are locked on me and he looks appreciative, but he's also scared. "Be honest," Dennis says hopefully. "How bad does it look? Think I'll live?" "Well, he likes to be reassured, so you'll be fine, no problem." "Good to know," he says, "'cause I sure don't feel like it." "You've been through hell," I say. "I think it feels worse than it actually looks." "Thanks. That's a relief." "I won't lie. You're gonna have a scar," I say, trying to be funny. He chuckles a bit, but there's no humor in it. He rests his head against the wall and closes his eyes as I finish up. I place one layer of gauze against the wound and bind it with medical tape. I then reinforce it with a second layer. I know it's meager, but it's all I can do. "Thanks, Roger," he says, actually managing to force out a smile. "I feel a lot better. I think I'll be fine." I'm not so sure about that, but I'm glad I was able to encourage him. I look back to Marcus as he's looking at us, deep in thought. "Are these first aid kits all you have in this facility?" I ask him. "If there's something better, I don't know about it," he says. I notice then that his defensive posture is no longer there. Something is different now. Just a slight change to his demeanor. He's seen something on those monitors that has him frightened. More than he already was before. What is it, I ask? What's wrong? His eyes travel around the room, and it's obvious that he's trying to decide whether or not to tell us the truth. Huh? Get up and look at the monitors? See if we can figure it out without him. Rather than wait for him, I get up and scan the screens behind him, seeing if I can find any clues I had missed moments ago. After a few moments, I see a few things that even I can comprehend hidden in the complex information on most of the screens. On one screen, I see what looks like a power meter that is slowly climbing upwards. A single message is flashing beneath it. It reads, "Unexpected power failure. Foreign entity." Another message trickling along the bottom of a black screen says, "Safety locks on level 3, containment doors engaged. Override?" I see still scenes on a few other screens that I assume are security cameras showing hallways and passages from elsewhere in the facility. One of them shows the first level hallway we were on just a few minutes ago. Another shows a hallway I don't recognize. The floor is covered in blood. From just off the screen, I see what I think might be a human body, but it's bent in an impossible way. It looks like the body's legs and torso have been somehow merged or melted into the floor. Let's ask what's wrong with the systems. This guy is obviously not a medical person, so we're going to ask about the systems.
This place has backups for its backups, Marcus says. It's not even supposed to suffer a full electrical shutdown.
And what does foreign entity mean? I ask, hoping he has a sane answer.
I have no idea. That keeps coming off and on. Whatever it is, it keeps entering and exiting to set off the sensors.
What the hell? I ask. There's something still happening? We're still in danger? He turns away, clearly fearing he's already said too much. And as bad as that is, there's a scene on another monitor that makes my blood go cold and my fear spike to levels somewhere near terror. The scene is very familiar. It's the logging site. The equipment is unmistakably mine. I can even see my truck. Something like fury starts to rise up in my guts, momentarily pushing aside the fear. For a moment, I consider just tearing into him, again. A few punches and a shove against the wall, nothing more, promise this time. I want answers, and I want them now, but I'm not sure which would provide answers, asking calmly or kicking his ass. Well, you know, I've already kicked his ass, but let's do it again. Question him aggressively. Come on, man. I figure since he's just an IT guy, I can probably intimidate him. I grab Marcus by the collar of his shirt and point to the screen. "Why have you been spying on my crew?" I shout.
It was part of my job, mine and a few others. Your crew's been watching over it since you set up your equipment.
Why? Marcus tries to draw up some anger of his own, but it isn't as toxic as mine. Still, I know there's a fight on my hands if I want one.
Because, he says, your logging site was set up less than a mile away from the entrance to a highly classified government facility.
How the hell was I supposed to know? I scream at him. Where are the signs and the guards? Marcus gives me that same crooked, trembling smile that is beginning to creep me out.
Because those things would draw attention to this place, he says. You have no idea how secretive this facility is. Besides, I know that the higher-ups looked into it. Your site isn't on government land. It's shy by about 300 yards. Every piece of your equipment's on private property. The timber tract you purchased from Mr. Gladstone 2 months ago. So even if we wanted to intervene and keep your crew away, we couldn't have without stirring up a fuss.
The fact that someone with such a low-level clearance knows this much about my logging crew is unnerving. If you've been watching us, why didn't you recognize us when you met us in the hallway, I ask. He shakes his head and exhales like it's obvious.
Cameras have a bird's eye view. I can't see faces. We just track bodies and names.
Alright. Keep going. Where the hell is my crew?
Look, Marcus says. All you are on site as usual before the incident. It'd been a few hours since I had checked, though.
I can tell he's starting to get rattled by this interrogation. He continues with his eyes fixed on the keyboard.
They might have come near the facility, or maybe not. I don't know. I'll tell you if I did, okay?
Well, are they inside the facility? I shout. You have cameras everywhere, right? Look for them. Marcus puts his hands up defensively.
I've been looking all over. I haven't seen your crew.
But, he adds,
the lower levels don't have any cameras. Classified. I'm not sure how they would have gotten there, but it's a possibility.
I'm still shocked that we are being watched. Do they know everything about us?
I'm telling you, Marcus said, the depth of influence in this facility goes deep. There are 36 employees down here. Outside of those employees, only 5 other people know about this place existing.
Let's switch to calm now that he's answered about the crew. We're gonna ask him calmly. What do all these people do here? I ask, trying to keep my voice level. He doesn't even pause to consider if he should go any further. He actually laughs when he gives me the answer.
I honestly don't know everything. Probably very little. But what I do know is that it's more than Black Ops.
What do you mean, I ask?
There are scientists here who've been disowned by their own governments because of the nature of their work. You get it now?
I don't. Not at all. But I don't want him to know about that. You said there are 36 employees, I say. Where are they now? He shakes his head.
As far as I know, everyone else is gone.
Gone where? He points to the screen that still informs us of the unexpected power failure and cringes.
If this power failure was not corrected in time, there's no telling.
But they're here in the facility somewhere, right? I ask, hoping someone will be able to help Dennis better than I can.
I just don't know, Marcus says. They could be anywhere.
Look, I say, furious with the way he's talking in riddles. I don't... Hey, boss, Dennis says, his voice flat and toneless. He stands up and is now looking blankly at one of the monitors. My eyes follow him, and when I see what's on the monitor, my heart pounds in my chest. Who is that? He asks, indicating the portion of a leg sticking out from the overturned dozer. Guilt slams into me like a bullet between the eyes. In my panic and fear, I'd avoid even trying to pull him out. More than that, I still haven't told Dennis. Holy shit, he says, looking closer. It's Tony. He's dead. Dennis looks like he's just been punched in the stomach. He looks at me, unbelieving. Did you know? Dennis demands. Alright, this is the time to be honest. Yes, I did know. I'm very sorry, Dennis. You knew Tony was dead this whole time and didn't tell me? This whole time? He stands up and lunges at me, but is too weak. I take a step back, avoiding his advance. What good would it have done? I asked. You still be hurt? We'd still be here anyway. I didn't want to add more to your plate. He only glares at me, and I think I see some sort of dull understanding in his eyes. Suddenly, something blazes by the open door outside. The shape is fast and in shadow, but I'm pretty sure it's a person.
Someone else is here,
Marcus says, wheeling around. He sounds very happy to discover this, so I try to follow his lead. If something bad happened at this facility, then surely the sight of another survivor is a good thing, right?
We should check it out,
he says. But I can't help but feel this is a bad moment to leave Dennis. As I turn to tell him I'm heading out with Marcus, he's not even looking at me. It's clear that he's still pissed that I kept him in the dark about Tony. I still stand by what I did. I did not want to tell him about Tony being dead while we were still in trouble before we knew what was going on. So look, I didn't know what else to do, man. Whatever, boss, he says curtly, turning his head to look away from me. Whatever. I want to talk about it and explain my reasoning, but there isn't any time. I turn to Marcus and motion for us to head out to investigate.
Let's be careful,
Marcus says.
Depending on who it is, they might not be as hesitant to shoot a stranger as I was.
Yeah, you're very hesitant, huh? I nod at him as I head for the door. I'm still holding the rifle in my hand, and I don't know if I have the guts to actually use it if needed. With a final look back to Dennis, I run out into the second-level hallway. Marcus follows. There's still fear in his eyes, but also the slightest glimmer of hope. That hope is contagious. We take off after the figure that just ran past the command center. Ahead of us, the facility presents yet another long hallway. Right away, I notice that this level of facility seems darker, even though the lights are now all on. The hallway is adorned with numbered yellow doorways and large white panels along the walls. It's clean and well maintained, but there's something ominous about it. Up ahead, I see the fleeting motion of something dark cutting quickly to the left down the corridor. There, I say quietly, pointing up ahead. Marcus gives a nod, and we continue chasing after the person we saw blaze by the command center just moments ago. It then occurs to me that this person could be like Marcus was at first, armed and scared. We're gonna move towards them slowly. Take a look at what's going on. When we reach the intersection in the hall where I'd seen the shadow moving, I ease around the corner, just in case. Sure, I have the rifle in my hands, but I don't want to use it unless I have to. I quickly dart around the corner and take the same shooting stance I've seen countless times on TV. There's a woman standing there, about 10 feet away. She has reddish blonde hair and a small, mousy build. She looks terrified and is visibly shaking. She's probably in her late 30s, wearing a lab coat with dark jeans and green Converse low tops. I have a strange sense that her fear is not just about our sudden appearance. She looks like a woman who's been running scared for a while now. Her hands are raised in surrender. She's not holding a weapon. Marcus slowly approaches, taking a few steps ahead of me.
It's Amy, right?
He asks. She blinks, seemingly surprised that he knows her name. Yes, she says. And you're Mark.
Marcus.
She nods absently and then looks to my rifle. Not gonna use it, lady. I'm gonna calm her down.
Now how do I know that? She asks. You're trespassing on government property in the midst of a huge catastrophic event, and you have a rifle. How am I supposed to believe you?
I have a friend back in the command center who needs medical attention, I say, and we're looking for the rest of our crew.
I'm really sorry, but I don't know where they are, she says. Do you know what's happened? Marcus asks. From the power outage. I don't know what caused it, she says, but there was an experiment taking place when the outage occurred. Something happened and...
She trailed off here, giving me a look of distrust.
I saw things on the security monitors, Marcus said. The experiment failed, didn't it?
I don't know the specifics, Amy says.
I barely escaped the 3rd floor. I was going to the command center to see if the security footage showed anything, but then I saw you and the gun.
Listening to their conversation, I'm feeling totally in the dark. Alright, what has you so scared? That's the important thing right now. Amy looks to me, her eyes wide and terrified.
Who are you anyway? She asks.
I quickly give her my story. A logger stranded in the woods following a peculiar explosion at the logging site. As I tell her, recognition blooms in her eyes.
You're one of the loggers?
Yeah. She then looks to Marcus and says, I thought they were being watched.
They were, Marcus says. This was a freak accident. There's no proof that they were responsible.
I feel myself wanting to submit to all the questions that are piling up in my head, but Dennis is waiting for me. Alright, so yeah, let's ask for medical help. Maybe she knows something more than Marcus. I decide that despite my curiosity, I need to get Dennis help as soon as humanly possible. Look, is there any medical help to be had here or not? I ask.
Probably, Amy says. But you'd have to find Colonel Barksdale. He knows where all those sorts of supplies are.
And where is he? Where is everyone else? I ask. At this, Amy starts to weep. She falls to her knees as if someone has struck her from behind.
Gone, she says. Some were killed and some were just... I don't know. They disappeared right in front of me.
Disappeared? What the hell is going on here?
Something's here with us, Amy says. We were conducting an experiment and it all went horribly wrong. Something came through. Came through what? Marcus asks. I don't even know that much. An entity, but whatever it is, it's still here somewhere, Amy responds.
How could you not know? Don't you have full security access, I ask?
No, I have access to almost everything, but there are 2 levels of security beyond my clearance.
So, what do you suggest we do now? I ask.
I'm not sure, she says, wiping her tears away. But if you want to find your crew, we need to find Barksdale. He's in charge.
Where is he? I ask.
Down on the 3rd level. In the hangar.
Then let's go, I say.
It's not that easy, Amy says, again looking to the rifle in my hands.
Why not?
Like I said, something came through when the power went out. There's several of them, all roaming the 3rd floor.
Okay, we need to know what they are. What do you mean something came through?
All I know is that the others refer to them as entities.
Amy shudders as she recalls the horrors she's seen.
I don't even know how to describe them. I didn't get a good look, she says. All I did was run for my life. Behind me, I just heard screams. I know it's not very scientific of me, but I didn't feel like sticking around to learn more. She's right, Marcus says, stopping my train of thought. The things I saw on the monitors, it was crazy.
This is insane, I bark. I'm going to the 3rd level to find this Barksdale guy. Thanks for your help.
Wait, Marcus says. I'm sticking with you. If we want to get out of here, we have to find Barksdale, right? Yeah, Amy says. But Barksdale's on the 3rd floor, and it's too dangerous to go back there.
I figure I'll let them make their own decisions. In the meantime, I start heading back to the command center to get Dennis. Before I get there, I hear their footfalls behind me, getting closer. I give Amy a questioning look as she quickly looks away, clearly torn. "Neither of you know your way around here," she says. Looking for Barksdale on your own would be suicide." Like it or not, she does have a point. "Fine," I say, "and let's get Dennis from the command center and head down together." We enter the command center, and I'm happy to see that Dennis is regaining some of his color. "We're gonna get you some help," I tell him, "and then we're gonna find our crew and get the hell out of here." "More help would be great," he says. "With the way you took an hour to get my shirt off earlier, I'm not letting you touch me again." "Wait," Amy says. "Maybe one of us should stay here with them." "I'll be okay," Dennis says. He stands to his feet with a grunt. "You don't know what's out there," Amy says. I saw them. I saw what they can do. This facility is not safe." "So what can they do, since you did see?" "Never mind," she says. "Come on, we just need to be careful." Marcus looks a little hesitant, but he nods his agreement, and the four of us exit the command center. Heading back out into the hallway, I look back to the monitors. I take a final look at the screen that shows my wrecked logging site, Vila Painosaro. Then I look to the other monitors, showing live feeds of the facility's security cameras. I try to tell myself that I'm not looking for any sign of Amy's creatures, but I can't. That's exactly what I'm doing, and there's no need to pretend otherwise. We head back through the hall and towards the elevator. The tension exists between us is like a physical presence. We step inside the elevator, and those pristine doors close. Inside the elevator, Amy seems to become much more guarded and distant from us. I want to assure her that I mean her no harm, but I'm also not going to put the rifle down. "So, you have pretty high clearance in this place, right?" I ask her. "That's right." "So what kind of experiment are we talking about here? What went wrong?" When she starts to answer my question, I can tell that it is something of a relief for her to get it off of her chest. There's been a lot of work on a project taking place here over the last 3 years or so. The purpose is to find out if there's any real viable science behind the point of instantation." "Like teleporting?" I ask. "Oh my god," Marcus says. "I had no idea. I knew there was some weird stuff here, but nothing that insane." "It's really not all that insane," Amy says. "We found out our first major breakthrough about 9 months ago. We were able to transport a live rat from its cage on level 3 to the small lab in New Mexico. The trip took the rat 5 seconds. "Are you kidding me?" Dennis says. I can tell he wants to sound as if he's mocking the idea, but he fails. He is scared. "Not at all," Amy says. The problem was that when the rat arrived, its retinas were detached and its intestines were on the outside of its body." Oh yeah, that's just a small little hiccup there, isn't it? What does this have to do with us now? That's the important part. Well, about 6 months ago, we successfully made that same experiment. The rat arrived in great health, and this time in just 3 seconds. Still, one of the things we needed to tweak in order to make the process completely safe was how to figure out how to keep the subject on a straight course. When the matter's being transported, not only are its atoms being unknit and then put back together upon arrival. Unknit? Yeah, deconstructed and translated through space. It's the only way we know how to do it right now. But the issue, as I said, comes in keeping the deconstructed subject on a straight course to its destination. When the process occurs, we're deforming space-time. We're creating a shortcut through space, and that has its risks. "Why, exactly?" Dennis asks. "Because there are many more dimensions in space than the 3 we exist on," she explains. "There's some evidence that there are as many as 10. "So, when you send the rat to New Mexico, it's traveling through another dimension to get there?" I ask. "Basically, and because of that, we're trying to get a better understanding of what those other dimensions are capable of. Things that are a great deal of the population would be scared, or if they knew what we were doing, hence all the privacy. Then today, the power went out, as we were right in the middle of an experiment. Something happened. What? I don't know." She's speaking with the authority of someone who knows what she's talking about. So what have you seen in these dimensions?
Other worlds. Other Tegmark universes, where our laws of nature don't apply,
She says, not bothering to explain what that means.
I'm not cleared for such things, but I do get the reports.
What reports?
Marcus asks. I'm given access to the results of the test.
In other words, Marcus replies, clearly upset,
you guys have been peeking into other dimensions and taking notes on what you see. I can't believe I wasted my life for this,
he murmurs to himself. He looks like he's starting to freak out. Amy is quiet. Her expression indicates that she's waiting to see how I react to all this. You know, just a quick little thought. Amy never really mentioned the whole fact that Marcus is all bloodied or anything like that. I mean, wouldn't you kind of ask, like, what happened? No? Okay, just me? That's alright. Well, I think that's incredible. Terrible, but incredible. So, this is like interdimensional stuff, I ask. In a way, Amy answers. Marcus, on the other hand, is incredulous.
I don't want anything to do with this, he says. All this time I've been working for...
He laughs cruelly, and the sound of it makes my blood go cold for a moment.
Just a single level beneath my feet. You assholes have been tearing apart space and time,
Marcus continues. When the elevator doors open, I can't get out fast enough. The tension is growing way too thick for my liking. Outside of the elevator, we step into what appears to be a massive industrial area. The carnage waiting for us is unlike anything I've seen in the upper levels. This might sober some people down. The area looks industrial, like everything was built for utility alone. But more noticeable than that is all of the blood. My God, I have never seen so much blood. Those creatures must have had a field day.
Holy shit,
Marcus says, looking like a man that has just awoke from a very bad dream.
There were more personnel in this area when the experiment went haywire,
Amy says, as if the explanation makes it all better. The research you all do down here had better be worth it, I say. We have to get moving, or we're going to lose our nerve. Amy, let's focus. Barksdale's in the hangar, I ask.
If he's still alive, yeah, that's where he'll be.
Then let's hurry, I say. As far as I can tell, Dennis is doing much better, but I'm beginning to grow tired of trying to keep my fear at bay. Between the blood on the floor and the silence of level 3, and Amy's talk of the lab rats, I'm getting freaked out. Well, I do have the gun. I'll go first, she just needs to direct me. The four of us start walking ahead with me in the lead. We stop walking when we come to the remains of what looks to be 3 different people. It's hard to tell how many bodies there were because they had been torn to shreds and are distorted. 2 of the bodies look as if they've been fused together. Another man looks to have had his leg welded through the floor. I can see this man's face. He died in an abject state of horror, his mouth pried open in an eternal scream. Let's keep moving. Let's get out of here. It's simply too much. Worse than that is the fact that we have just started our journey through level 3. If there's worse waiting for us up ahead, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. Dennis steps up beside me, and when he speaks, his voice is soft and flat. What in the hell could do this to someone? He asks.
The things I saw, Amy answers, they could do it pretty easily, I think.
She looks pale, and I think she may pass out at any moment. Tears spill from her eyes, and she is visibly shaking. But she shoulders on, looking back to me and stepping to the side of the gruesome carnage. Her eyes again go to my rifle, and she doesn't look very hopeful. You good to go? She asks me. We need to move on, but for some reason I can't take my eyes off this scene. My mind is reeling trying to process it all. Let's go. Come on. We gotta go. We leave the grisly site behind, moving into another equally destroyed area. From what I can tell, the next room was once an open area for experimentation. The place hasn't just been destroyed, it's been physically altered in a way that makes no sense. The girders look to have been warped, their very materials distorted and twisted. To my right, a machine has been catapulted and looks to have somehow merged with the wall, rather than crashing into it. Beyond these phenomena, there's the standard violence I was expecting to see. There is a limp arm sticking out from underneath the wreckage, and more blood. I see no signs of an explosion, which makes me wonder just how this happened. Seeing the aftermath is sickening enough, but it makes me wonder if Amy saw it while it was happening. Did you see what happened to those girders? Let's not talk about the people. I only caught a glimpse of it, she says. It was like trying to focus your eye on something that was too close. They just started twisting, but not creaking or breaking. It's like these creatures are able to deform matter. She pauses here, and that's when we hear something echo through the facility. It comes from behind us and slightly to the right. I'm not sure what it is, but it makes my blood feel like ice. It sounds almost like static from an AM radio. But there's a high-pitched noise beneath it that I can't even start to fathom. What in the hell is that? I ask, instantly clapping my hands to my ears. One of them, Amy says, her voice a whisper. One of the creatures. That's what they sound like? Dennis asks. I see that he's leaning against the wall again, wincing at the noise. I suddenly realize that I have a death grip on the rifle, ready to shoot at the next thing I see. Anything between us and them? Anything we can hide in? Not really, she says. None of the hallways are blocked off by secure doors. Everyone seems to take this as the cue to start moving again. We make our way around the office wreckage, now with new purpose in our step. We barely make it to the other side of the room, approaching a dark hallway, when another high-pitched noise sounds out. This one is louder, closer. We all share a terrified look, and I can tell that Amy is on the verge of losing it. I grip the rifle tightly as we head towards the hallway in front of us. Can you kill these things? What defense do we have? I don't know, Amy says. Dennis speaks up, his voice like ice. Then let's haul ass, huh? No one says anything after that, but I can feel the presence of terror around us, pressing in on us like some new violent gravity. The small utility hallway is well lit. It looks as if it was designed to only be used by select maintenance workers. What goes on in this area? I ask. I'm looking at Marcus as I ask the question, but he only shrugs in response.
She might know, he replies, pointing to Amy. I've never been down here before.
It's just a utility hallway, Amy says, but at the end there is a maintenance room. There should be a gun or two in there. It's also the most direct path to the hangar entrance. As we walk quickly and quietly down the hall, I take a glimpse ahead and feel the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. The lights become more sparsely spaced, and it's impossible to see just how far the hall extends into the darkness. This hallway has the occasional trace of bloodshed, but nothing like the main area we've come from. We continue farther down, and just as I begin to see what looks like a large metal door farther ahead, I hear yet another shrill sound. This one sounds further away, but no less demonic. How many of these things did you see? Dennis asks Amy. 3, but that's just what I saw. There could be more. What'd they look like? Dennis asks. Yeah, what are we dealing with here? I don't even know how to explain them, she says. Monsters. That's the only word I can think of. My mind seems to struggle just trying to understand what I was seeing. They're big, and they seem to jerk around every few feet or so. They look like they're made of light. That's all I really know for sure. You know, my ex-husband always said I'd let my work kill me, she continues, seemingly unable to stop herself. I mean, I doubt he imagined this exact scenario, but still. As we make our way to the hangar doors, another high-pitched noise rings out, angrier now. Amy stops walking, causing all of us to stop and turn to her. We have to do something to slow these things down, she says.
No, Marcus snaps. There's no time. We need to distance ourselves and get to the hangar. Fast.
Amy ignores him, deep in thought. There's an old hydraulic door set into the wall right here, she says. It hasn't been used for years, though. She looks to me, pleading her case. Together, we might be able to put it closed behind us to keep those things back.
Those old hydraulic doors weigh a ton, Marcus said. There's no way it'll work.
Roger, Amy says. What do you think? They'll have a harder time getting to us if those doors are locked.
Look, Marcus shouts, turning to me. We need to get to the hangar. Now.
I feel like we should close the doors. I really feel like anything will help us in this matter.
Damn it, Marcus says. We don't have time for this.
Amy ignores him and starts feeling along the wall for a groove. Dennis and I start looking as well. A minute passes, then I see a small metal frame that runs from the floor to the ceiling. Is that it? I ask. Yeah, Amy says. I look to the floor and see an old metal track that runs along the frame. Let's move it, I say. Amy, Dennis, and I start pulling as hard as I can, but it barely budges an inch. Behind us, that static noise rings out again. My heart seems to stutter, and Marcus lets out a little whine.
We're running out of time! We need to go! Marcus screams. Those things are getting closer every second!
Help us then!
It won't make a difference, he says.
Shut up and help us and then find a way out, I shout. Reluctantly, Marcus walks over and grasps the door. We all groan as we strain to pull. It starts inching slowly and then begins moving steadily. Once we get it started, it actually slides easily. As we near the wall, closing off the hallway behind us, I think I can see the merest glimpse of an odd illuminated shape in the darkness. It's cut off by the slight thump of the hydraulic door being pushed against the frame in the opposite wall. Amy turns a lock into place. Great.
Now let's haul ass,
says Marcus. We all turn and get moving again, still feeling unsure about our prospects. The fact that yet another shrill noise sounds out elsewhere in the facility is not calming. And then there are two of them. It's almost like they're calling out to one another. The doors to the hangar sit up ahead, like the entrance to some enormous labyrinth. When we reach the hangar doors, I get a true sense of how impenetrable they are. A computer terminal is mounted on the wall nearby and has a blinking red light. Any idea what this means, I ask? It's an automatic lock, a failsafe from the lockdown, says Amy.
I've never been down here before, Marcus says. If I had known this door was here, I would have opened it earlier.
How? Amy asks. The fear in her voice is more present than ever.
From the command center, he says. You need to override there first, then use the terminal to open the hangar door.
The command center on the second floor? I ask.
Yeah.
Amy shakes her head and lets out a nervous laugh. Are you kidding? She asks. We just pulled that hydraulic door closed and blocked off the hallway, remember?
If we want to get into the hangar, we have to get back to the command center, Marcus says. Isn't there another way?
Turning to Marcus, Amy replies, well, there is another elevator, but we'll need to go through the biochem storage. I need to stay with Dennis so he can rest, I say. You two go. You know your way around this place and you know the controls, Marcus.
Fine, Marcus says, but we'll need to be armed.
Okay, definitely giving Amy the gun. Marcus went a little crazy last time. I hand Amy the rifle and she turns to go. Marcus gives me a concerned look but follows along behind her. Once Amy and Marcus make it a good distance down the hallway, Dennis lets out a nervous laugh. And then there were two, he says. Dennis looks much better, but he still needs to use the wall to stay standing. Didn't Amy say that there were guns and emergency kits in the maintenance room near the hangar doors? I ask. Yeah, I think so, Dennis says, looking exhausted. I look ahead and see a door to the right that reads maintenance. Might as well give it a try. I go to the door, try to open it, and find that it's blocked. Kick it down or push with shoulder? Okay, so if you're ever going to kick down a door, you have to use your heel at the lock. That way it might actually work. If you just high kick it in the middle, it's not going to do nothing. But does Roger know this? Although I did hurt my ankle earlier, so we're going to push with the shoulder. I give it a hard shove, but it doesn't budge. I'm about to try again, but that's when I hear a gunshot from just down the hallway. My first thought is that Amy and Marcus have come upon one of those things, one of those monsters. But I don't hear any of that strange static sound I've come to associate with them. Alarm bells go off in my head, and before I know it, I'm heading back down the hall away from the hangars. Stay here, I'll be right back, I whisper over my shoulder to Dennis. See if you can figure out how to get into that maintenance room. Where are you going? He asks. I don't bother answering him as I bound through the door where Amy and Marcus went. As I enter the biochem room and start walking between the massive silos, I wonder what classified chemicals could be inside of them. I'm fully expecting one of Amy's creatures to come flying out from the intersection of halls just up ahead. I think I overhear a voice, a woman's voice. It's Amy. Stop! Let go of the gun! I run ahead as fast as I can, and I almost trip over 2 people in a life or death struggle. My mind tries to process what I'm seeing, but it makes no sense. None at all. Marcus is wrestling with Amy, trying to take her gun away. When this doesn't work, he throws her to the ground and starts choking her. Her face is turning purple and her eyes look like they might pop out of her head. Marcus sees me coming out of the hallway, but acts as if what he's doing is perfectly normal. Stop him. He definitely went a little cuckoo. I start rushing towards him before I really know what's going on. I bring my fist down in a hard arc across the bridge of his nose and am rewarded with a sick, crunching sound. He cries out as he falls to the ground, looking at me as if he doesn't understand why I punched him. On the floor, Amy clutches at her neck and gasps for breath. I start to fear that I was a moment too late, just as I see that the rifle has been thrown across the floor. Marcus seems to notice this at the exact same moment I do. Hit him again! That's kind of my mantra here. Hit him again! I deliver a surprisingly strong blow with my right hand, clipping his chin from the awkward position. I'm in the process of planting a knee in his chest to hold him down when his left foot comes out of nowhere, landing hard. The kick catches me squarely in the ribs, knocking the breath out of me.
What the hell are you doing? He yells at me. By killing her, I'm saving us all. This was all her fault.
I sense that he truly believes this, but if that's the case, then why not just attack her when we were all together? The answer is simple. We might have stopped him. He wanted to kill her in private. And then what? Would he have done the same to Dennis and me? It seems fitting, really. When we first came upon Marcus, he'd held a gun on us. I'd been so relieved to see another human being that I had underestimated just how unhinged he was. Marcus and I both dive for the rifle, still laying on the floor, and start wrestling for possession, but I'm not confident I'll come away with it. As we struggle, he starts inching the muzzle of the gun towards my face, a position I do not want to be in. I start pushing back hard, but if this thing accidentally fires, I'm not sure where I'd prefer the bullet to go, especially in this room full of chemical tanks. I gotta take my chances with the tanks. I don't want anybody to particularly die. I grunt as I push the muzzle to face away from both of us, which ends up being towards the large tanks. In the struggle, the gun does go off, and after a flash, a bullet hole appears in the side of one of the tanks. A strange green liquid starts to leak out, and I hold my breath, hoping it's not explosive or harmful. It's not. As soon as it lands on the ground, some kind of thick, twisted moss starts to grow unnaturally fast. I have no idea what this is or if it's safe for us to be rolling on the ground just a few feet from it. Luckily, the strange growth distracts Marcus for an instant. I grip the rifle tighter and push forward. The side of the rifle catches him directly in the chin. His head snaps back and his hands release the rifle. I get to my feet as quickly as I can, swinging the rifle back around on him. For a moment, I think I've knocked him out, but his eyes flutter and he looks at me as if I betrayed him.
Her people, he says. It was them that did this. She deserves to die. She did this.
I look to Amy and wish I could help her. I'm relieved to see that she's managing to draw in a few breaths. Her legs move as she tries to push herself into a sitting position.
You wouldn't know, Marcus says. You didn't work here under their secrecy. You don't know what it was like to.
He surprises me by lunging forward, leaping from the floor like a human projectile. I don't have time to aim carefully. I have to react fast. I guess we're gonna shoot him. I mean, yeah. This is like the 5th time. I react before thinking. My muscles take over and my finger squeezes the trigger. The blast is deafening as I watch Marcus fall to the floor. A terrifying thought races through my mind. If some of those things are here and they didn't know where we were before, they sure as hell know now. Marcus falls to the floor and I see right away that I shot him in the shoulder. His right arm dangles loosely, already covered in blood. He roars in pain on the floor, only after a few moments, I realize they're not only purely screams of pain. The bastard is calling for them, calling for those creatures to come for us.
This place is evil, along with everyone involved, he wails from the floor. If you're taking her side, then you deserve to die too. If you want to stab me, you better do it now, you coward.
The rage in his eyes at Amy, as well as towards me for stopping him, makes me think that he'll deliver on his threats. I raise the rifle again, every urge in my body wanting to make sure he doesn't come back to bite us. But I'm not a violent man. I could easily not kill him and just leave him behind. Alright, I'm gonna let him live. only in the hopes that those monsters get him? Is that terrible? Is that bad to think? But the first shot to his shoulder had been instinctual. I can't bring myself to deliver a kill shot. I ignore him and lean down to Amy. You okay? I ask. She nods slowly.
Have to go,
she says, her voice raspy.
They'll be here any minute. Too much noise.
I have to hold her arm so she can get to her feet. We start forward, and then I think of Dennis. We should go back to the hangar doors, I say. I can't just leave Dennis there.
No time, Amy says. You need to come with me to the command center now. I'll be back for him soon. You're all dead now anyway, Marcus shrieks. If they don't get you, I will.
He laughs maniacally after saying this, hooting like a madman. As if in response, a high-pitched noise tears through the hallway. I seem to feel it in my bones.
They're following his noise now,
Amy says, her voice still weak. She takes off away from Marcus, presumably towards the other elevator she'd mentioned moments ago. I follow her. As we move out, I hear Marcus slowly push himself off the ground and stumble off, slipping in between the tanks and disappearing. We start running, and after the first few strides, another noise sounds out. It sounds mechanical, but at the same time, it also reminds me of recordings I've heard of whale songs. A sound of metallic creaking and crashing echoing through the door I came in through. They've reached the hydraulic door we pulled, Amy says, confirming what I was thinking. The sound grows louder as it's clear that they're struggling with it, which is good. When we have a bit more time. Haha, I knew it was a good thing. I speed up my step to follow Amy as she leads me down the way to the other elevator. She's panting furiously but pushes on. I can hear something rattling in her breath, likely the result of Marcus's attack. This makes me imagine how his cold, uncaring eyes must have looked, staring down at her as he tried to deliver her to death. How is she still forging on is beyond me. I'm sorry about Marcus, I say. It's not your fault, she interrupts. At least you handed me the gun. I just hope we can find a way to survive this mess. We're gonna be reassuring. We'll be fine. If there's anything you know about me, it's that I punch people and I reassure people. I'm not so sure, she says, her eyes fixed straight ahead. I'm not sure I can blame her. I just wanted to say something encouraging, I guess. We finally come to the elevator at the end of a row of silos. The elevator doors slide open slowly. At that moment, we hear something behind us, a strangled sort of whistling sound. We step inside and turn around to face the biochem room. Thankfully, we've been given a few moments to spare. The elevator doors remain open for 3 seconds before they start to slide closed again. In those 3 seconds, I see a large shape floating towards us. A phosphorescent-like white glow outlines an impossible shape. Behind it, I see another shape that's also entering the biochem room, and another. The third one breaks away from the other two, taking a quick right. It moves with eerie speed. That was the direction Marcus had gone. Honestly, the thought of them hunting him down doesn't bother me in the slightest. Amy is pressing the button to close the elevator doors over and over, but they stay open for what seems like an eternity. I curse whoever designed these damn doors. We're gonna hide. Maybe they haven't seen us yet. Amy and I slide ourselves up against the sides of the elevator, trying to avoid being seen, but I can't help peeking around the corner. I hold the rifle steady, ready to fire, and that's when I see them in a clear light for the first time. I can see their features, their shape, and their colors, but my mind can't process it all. Nothing about them makes any sense. My eyes try to see a squid, but that's not what these things are. They are gray and white and seem to be nothing more than squirming light. Their appendages are neither legs nor tentacles, but somewhere in between. They don't walk on these appendages, but use them to glide. They move like ghosts and seem to jerk every few feet or so. But I'm pretty sure that this jerking effect is not a result of their moving, but my mind's inability to understand how they're moving exactly. It's also more than their appearance that makes a mockery of reality. The light around them seems to bend inward, as if the space within the room has to reshape itself for their existence. That peculiar effect on the air makes their movement seem like something moving underwater, only faster. They screech in unison as they rush towards the elevator. They'll be inside here in another few seconds. I check the rifle and see that my ammo is diminishing. I have to start saving my shots. I'm going to have to be choosy. Alright, Cool, let's shoot at the creatures. Let's see if we can do anything to them, I guess, at this point. Now about a foot remains between the sliding doors. I find my muscles reacting instinctively again. I pull the trigger. The shot fills the elevator and there's thunder in my ears. I hit the thing in its center, and the reaction is not what I expect. The monster pauses and spasms for about 2 seconds. Its body of light flickers for a moment, similar to a light bulb on the brink of burning out. My finger keeps pulling the trigger. The throb of the rifle in my hands is comforting, and each screech from the creature is like music. But then I realize that this is only seeming to slow them down. Its tentacles seem to tighten and then loosen, like a weird muscle reflex. But then it's on the move again, unharmed by the shots. Finally, the elevator door closes. The creatures wash against the other side of the door, making an electrical noise and crying out in anger. The tips of their spider-like appendages poke through the wall and elevator door, but for some reason, they can't get all the way through. Amy screams at this and curls into a ball in the far corner of the elevator, crying. I say nothing to her, just cling to the rifle, hoping these creatures don't find Dennis as he waits by the hangar doors where I left him. For his sake and ours, we need to get them open now. End of chapter 3. Oh boy! So much to unpack here. So much was done. Dennis is a dick. I can't believe he did that. I should have kept punching him. I have no remorse now. He absolutely deserved it all. I can't believe it. The monsters. What are these monsters? Made of light? Oh, how do we know they're screaming in anger? Are they actually trying to kill us? Maybe it's just happenstance. Maybe that's just what happens when they touch us. Maybe they're not bad. Maybe they are bad. Either way, we need to stay away from them, and I did shoot them, and now they probably are mad. Oh man, what is happening? Okay, the blunt truth. You and 59% of players told Dennis he'd probably be fine. That makes sense. You gotta reassure. Slow them down. You and 35% of players sided with Amy on pulling the hydraulic door. So that bought us a little time to get into the elevator. I wonder what would happen if you didn't. Who to trust? You and 69% of players gave the gun to Amy. That's because Marcus is a dick. Murder or mercy? You and 58% of players left Marcus alive. I am curious if that's going to come back and bite us. I mean, they insinuated that it would, so I wonder if he will. We can only hope that he actually gets caught and we don't, have to see him again. Now or later, you and 32% of players used your ammo and took extra shots at the creatures. That's a low percentage. Again, I hope that doesn't come back to bite us. But you would think in a facility that has guns stored away in every room, you could go get more ammo. And in that vault, they had more ammo. I hope we can get some more. Alright, well that was chapter 3 of Buried. I am super fascinated. I love this story. I am so excited to continue. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me know what you thought, and I will see y'all in chapter 4. Bye-bye!